Are scandal and competition catching up with JP Morgan stock? He's pretty in pink. Yes, he is. Ryan Blestelica, he's our markets expert. All right, Deutsche Bank downgrading JP Morgan to hold.
Right. Two real issues in this downgrade. The first one was net interest income, which Deutsche Bank expects to remain pressured at JP Morgan for at least a few more quarters. The other one is a little bit more interesting. It could be a little bit more consequential. They talked about increased competition, which could result in JP Morgan losing some of its dominant market share. Of course, two things happened in this past quarter. JP Morgan announced a multi-billion-dollar trading loss, which sort of like tarnished the reputation
Jamie
of the bank
Dimon no longer king of the hill?
Still very highly regarded by analysts and investors, but again, some of the shine is off. And this comes as some of the other competitors, Bank of America in particular, coming off of a major mortgage loss. Those are coming ahead a little bit. JP Morgan's coming back a little bit. So relatively, they do see some weakness there.
Okay, we should mention that the shares are down close to 2% today.
Right.
Moving on, Apple, Samsung, the big patent battle.
Right.
Apple says that Samsung basically ripped off its iPhone and its iPad with its Galaxy products. What do you think? The jury selection starts today.
Jury selection
Give us
starts
a preview.
today. Well, this is going to be a long, sort of drawn-out process. We're going to be talking about this over the coming weeks and months, I expect. Basically, as you mentioned, they allege that Samsung stole some of its...
Look-alike right there.
Well, a lot of the smartphones do have the
They do.
main,
Sure.
just the display as their
Right.
defining feature. So it remains to be seen like how good of a case this is, but obviously Apple is putting a lot of resources behind this legal battle. The real downside scenario for Samsung, the worst case scenario, is if they lose, they might have sales of their Galaxy products banned here in the States. Now that would require a unanimous decision from the jury. So I don't know, again, how likely this is. Maybe there'll be some kind of 12 Angry Men situation, maybe not.
And I think a question as to whether Samsung is going to get a fair shake with the trial in Silicon Valley, where the core of the workers, many of them, Apple employees.
Like an Apple core.
Ah, see, it's just so something.
Yeah.
All right, Apple shares, we should mention, are up about 1.5% today. Okay, I'd like to stay right there, my man in pink gingham. I'd like to remind everybody that you should look right here below me for more headlines than what we're talking about today. And we're going to, on the show, we're going to move it back here to Jennifer Merritt. She is Reuters Wealth Management Editor. And we're going to talk social media stocks because you guys have a great piece today about how there's really this schism among social media stocks. Should you get into them? Should you get out of them? Winners, losers? Tell us.
Well, you're really looking at two tracks here. So you're looking at Facebook, Zynga, Groupon. They've been taking a big hit.
The losers.
That's right. Yes, and Facebook has had some issues over its advertising not doing as well as they've thought, users not doing as well as they've thought. Zynga's closely related to Facebook, but then you've got the other side of the coin. You've got Zillow, you've got Yelp, you've got LinkedIn, and a lot of people feel that they can much better monetize their businesses, and they've got better mobile apps. They've just got more usability, essentially. So of course you could always try for an option play and decide whether or not you think Facebook's going to keep going down and LinkedIn's going to keep going up, but there are some other things you can do as well.
And one of them that you talk about is to kind of get in around the edges if you don't get right into these social media stocks.
That's right. If you're not sure you want to take the risk, there are some benefactors of what's going on in social media, and one of them are the people who, of course, collect the tolls. So that would be AT&T and Verizon. They've revamped some of their plans for mobile and for data, and that's really where a lot of people use these social media sites. So they seem to be on the uptick, and they also pay pretty good dividends as well. And then there's also the old school media, which is going to benefit this summer from the Olympics and from the elections. So in an election year, companies like Belo or CBS tend to do a little bit better because they're getting more of that advertising that's been slowly shifting to social media and mobile and online.
One person who still has faith in Zynga, Mark Pincus, its head, who's bought up a bunch of shares and now has more than 50% of the voting power. And I just want to mention quickly, you touched on Yelp. They revamped its apps, and based on that news, they've been up 10% today. They get about 40% of their searches from their apps.
That's right, and they have such a dedicated community of users, so it's definitely one of the stocks that most analysts see is on the rise.
Okay, Jennifer Merritt, thank you so much. Going to move now to the hot spot. Well, we are talking about, hello, Ryan.
Hi.
I missed you ever so much.
I know, I was feeling lonely here. Not unlike Molly Ringwald in some 80s movie.
Oh, Pretty in Pink. Love it. Okay, let's talk Trina Solar. We talked a lot about solar panels, companies in the past couple weeks. Tariffs hurting them, stocks down about 4%.
The company came out with some very cautious comments about the shipments, and their margin rate. And like you said, tariffs was part of this. There's also an issue of low prices, weak demand. We've been talking about solar companies here in the
Making
past.
the big PV panels, the photovoltaic. Yep.
The whole group has been pressured lately by weak demand and just sort of a glut of supply. So prices are down. So the whole group is sort of seeing weakness. Trina Solar is down quite significantly today. And again, this is sort of as indicative of some of the pressures facing the group at large.
Okay, so while we're talking energy, actually, we're going to talk about Lowe's, not the home improvement store, but the big conglomerate that's sort of controlled by the Tisch family, of course, very well known, based here in New York. Jim Tisch, the CEO, told Forbes just back in May that natural gas is going to save the U.S. economy, but maybe not quite yet, as net income's down 78% at Lowe's.
Right. Lowe's, of course, has positions in hotels, finance, energy. Energy is a big issue for today's story. One of Lowe's biggest investment is in a company called Diamond Offshore Drilling. They also came out with results today, and the weakness, or they had a lot of weakness there in terms of their profits, mostly because of rig utilization rates. And because Lowe's has such a big percentage of them as a company, Lowe's was also sort of pressured in turn.
Okay. We're going to go move it back now. We like to keep it moving here. Let's go to the big board and look at what the markets are doing today.
Right.
Kind of flat. Yeah.
It's not a very dramatic day compared to some of the other ones that we've seen lately. You know, we're coming off a period of strength for the markets. We were recently at highs not seen since early May. And so there's no real reason for investors to keep pushing us higher, especially since later on this week we're going to get comments from the Federal Reserve, from the European Central Bank. We're going to see major data on jobs.
Lots of stuff coming.
Ahead of all that stuff, investors are a little bit wary to pay bets one way or the other.
Okay. Before we let you go, I just want to mention very briefly, we didn't get the rain that we needed here in the Midwest over the weekend. As a consequence, corn keeps going. Corn futures at a record high today. All right, Ryan Vlastelica, he's the man in pink. He knows what he's doing. Our markets expert here. Thanks so much. Don't forget, we tweet a lot. Check us out at Reuters Insider, and lots of great shows on our YouTube channel, Reuters.com/Reuters TV. We're back here tomorrow noon Eastern. Join us. I'm Lisa Bernhard, and this is Reuters.